Question 1. Governance review demonstrates that a student has submitted a request for an extension on a major assignment due to unforeseen personal circumstances. The student has provided a brief explanation but no supporting documentation. The faculty member responsible for the course is aware of the student's generally good academic standing, but is unsure of the exact university policy regarding such requests and the level of discretion they possess. What is the most appropriate course of action for the faculty member to take? Option A. Grant the extension without further inquiry to avoid causing additional stress to the student during a difficult time. Option B. Immediately grant a short extension to allow time for a formal review of the student's request against university policy. Option C. Inform the student that supporting documentation is required before any decision can be made and direct them to the relevant university department for guidance on the process. Option D. Deny the extension outright, stating that all assignments must be submitted by the deadline regardless of personal circumstances. Correct answer is B. Immediately grant a short extension to allow time for a formal review of the student's request against university policy. Explanation. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires balancing the university's commitment to academic integrity with the need to support students facing personal difficulties. Decision-making process must be guided by established university policies and ethical consideration regarding student welfare and fair assessment. A careful judgment is required to ensure that any accommodations provided are appropriate, equitable, and do not compromise the academic standards expected of Amasya University. The correct approach involves a structured review of the student's request against existing university policies for academic concessions. This approach is right because it adheres to the established regulatory framework of Amasya University, ensuring consistency and fairness in decision-making. It prioritizes a transparent and documented process, which is a cornerstone of good governance and academic administration. By consulting relevant policies, the university can determine if the student's situation warrants a specific accommodation, such as an extension or alternative assessment, without setting a precedent that could be exploited or unfairly disadvantage other students. This aligns with the ethical principle of fairness and the regulatory requirement for universities to have clear procedures for handling student academic matters. An incorrect approach would be to grant an immediate extension without a formal review. This fails to follow the university's established procedures and could lead to inconsistent application of policies. It bypasses the necessary checks and balances designed to maintain academic integrity and could be perceived as favoritism, undermining trust in the university's assessment processes. Another incorrect approach would be to dismiss the request outright without considering the student's circumstances or university policy. This demonstrates a lack of empathy and a failure to uphold the university's responsibility to support its students. It neglects the ethical obligation to consider individual needs within the bounds of academic regulations. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a systematic approach. 1. Acknowledge the student's request and express empathy. 2. Immediately refer to the relevant Amasya University policies and guidelines concerning academic concessions, extensions, and student support services. 3. Gather necessary information from the student, as per policy, to understand the nature and impact of their personal difficulties. 4. Conduct a fair and impartial review of the request based on the documented policies and the information provided. 5. Communicate the decision clearly to the student, explaining the rationale and any available alternatives or support. 6. Document the entire process for accountability and future reference. Question 2. Performance analysis shows that one applicant for the Amasya University entrance exam has submitted work that bears a striking resemblance to previously published material, raising concerns about potential plagiarism. The applicant has otherwise demonstrated exceptional aptitude in all other assessed areas of the examination. What is the most appropriate course of action for the examination committee? Option A. Immediately disqualify the applicant from the entrance examination based on the strong suspicion of plagiarism. Option B. Advise the applicant to withdraw their application voluntarily to avoid further scrutiny. Option C. Initiate a formal investigation into the suspected plagiarism, following the established procedures for academic integrity as outlined in the Amasya University entrance exam regulations, and provide the applicant with an opportunity to respond. Option D. Overlook the suspected plagiarism, given the applicant's otherwise outstanding performance, to avoid potentially losing a high-caliber candidate. The correct answer is C. Initiate a formal investigation into the suspected plagiarism, following the established procedures for academic integrity as outlined in the Amasya University entrance exam regulations, and provide the applicant with an opportunity to respond. Explanation. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires balancing the university's academic integrity standards with the practical realities of student support and the potential for academic misconduct. A careful judgment is needed to ensure fairness to all students while upholding the principles of honest academic work, as mandated by Amasya University's entrance exam regulations. The correct approach involves a thorough and impartial investigation into the suspected plagiarism, adhering strictly to the procedures outlined in the Amasya University entrance exam regulations concerning academic integrity. This approach is right because it prioritizes due process and evidence-based decision-making. The regulations likely stipulate a clear process for handling suspected academic dishonesty, which would include notifying the student, allowing them to respond, and a review by an academic integrity committee. This ensures that any disciplinary action is taken only after a fair assessment of the facts, thereby protecting the integrity of the entrance exam and the university's reputation. An incorrect approach would be to immediately disqualify the student without any investigation. This fails to adhere to the principles of natural justice and the specific procedural safeguards likely present in the university's regulations. It assumes guilt without proof, which is ethically unsound and potentially legally challengeable. Another incorrect approach would be to ignore the suspicion due to the student's strong performance in other sections. This is a failure of professional responsibility and a direct violation of academic integrity policies. The university has a duty to ensure that all admissions are based on genuine merit and that no student gains an unfair advantage through dishonest means. Overlooking such a serious issue undermines the entire admission process and devalues the hard work of other applicants. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a structured approach. 1. Identify the core issue, suspected academic misconduct. 2. Consult relevant regulations. Refer to the Amasya University entrance exam regulations on academic integrity and plagiarism. 3. Gather evidence. Collect all relevant materials, including the student's submitted work and any comparative data. 4. Follow established procedures. Initiate the formal investigation process as outlined in the regulations. 5. Ensure fairness. Provide the student with an opportunity to be heard and present their case. 6. Make an informed decision. Based on the evidence and regulatory guidelines, determine the appropriate course of action. 7. Document the process. Maintain thorough records of all steps taken and decisions made. Question 3. Governance review demonstrates that a significant number of anonymous complaints have been lodged regarding potential irregularities in the administration of the Amasya University entrance exam in a specific regional center. These complaints allege preferential treatment and the leakage of examination materials. The university's reputation and the fairness of the admissions process are at stake. Which of the following represents the most appropriate course of action for the Amasya University Examination Board? Option A. Immediately halt the processing of results from the affected regional center and request a re-examination for all candidates from that center, based on the volume of anonymous complaints alone. Option B. Forward all anonymous complaints directly to the Ministry of Education for their immediate intervention and decision-making, without undertaking any preliminary internal assessment. Option C. Publicly address the allegations by issuing a statement assuring the public that the exam was conducted fairly, without conducting any immediate investigation, to prevent undue panic among candidates and parents. Option D. Initiate a comprehensive and impartial investigation into the allegations, involving independent review of examination records and interviews with relevant personnel, while maintaining the confidentiality of the complainants as per university policy. The correct answer is D. Initiate a comprehensive and impartial investigation into the allegations, involving independent review of examination records and interviews with relevant personnel, while maintaining the confidentiality of the complainants as per university policy. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between maintaining academic integrity and responding to external pressures that could compromise fair evaluation. The Amasya University entrance exam regulations are paramount, emphasizing objective assessment and equal opportunity for all candidates. The university's commitment to these principles requires a decision-making process that is both transparent and defensible under its established governance framework. The correct approach involves a thorough, impartial investigation into the alleged irregularities, adhering strictly to the established procedures outlined in the Amasya University entrance exam regulations. This approach prioritizes the integrity of the examination process and ensures that any decisions made are based on verifiable evidence and are consistent with the university's commitment to fairness and meritocracy. The regulatory justification lies in upholding the principles of academic honesty and the validity of the entrance examination as a fair selection mechanism. Ethically, it demonstrates a commitment to impartiality and the equal treatment of all candidates. An incorrect approach would be to immediately dismiss the allegations without proper investigation. This fails to uphold the university's duty to ensure the integrity of its examinations and could lead to a perception of bias or a cover-up, violating the spirit of fair play and potentially undermining public trust in the university's admissions process. Another incorrect approach would be to act solely on the basis of the external pressure, without independent verification of the claims. This subordinates the university's own governance and regulatory framework to external influence, compromising its autonomy and the fairness of the examination. It also risks making a decision based on incomplete or inaccurate information, which is ethically unsound and procedurally flawed according to the university's own guidelines. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that begins with understanding the relevant regulations and policies. This is followed by gathering all pertinent facts objectively, assessing the credibility of information, and considering the potential consequences of each course of action. The framework emphasizes consulting with relevant internal stakeholders and seeking advice when necessary, ensuring that decisions are not only legally compliant, but also ethically sound and aligned with the institution's values and mission. Question 4. Governance review demonstrates that a prominent political figure has exerted pressure on Amasya University administration to ensure a specific outcome for candidates from their region in the upcoming entrance examination, citing regional development initiatives. The university's examination committee is tasked with responding to this pressure while upholding the integrity of the Amasya University entrance exam. Which of the following responses best aligns with the regulatory framework and ethical principles governing university admissions in Turkey? Option A. The examination committee should propose a delay in the examination for all candidates, citing vague logistical concerns, to allow for a review of the situation and potential adjustments that might appease the political figure. Option B. The examination committee should agree to a confidential review of the examination papers and scoring for candidates from the specified region after the exam, with the possibility of making minor adjustments if deemed necessary to ensure fairness. Option C. The examination committee should firmly reject the request, emphasizing that the Amasya University entrance exam is conducted under strict URSIM regulations that guarantee impartiality and equal opportunity for all candidates, and that any deviation would compromise the integrity of the examination and violate established legal frameworks. Option D. The examination committee should subtly adjust the difficulty of certain exam sections or modify scoring criteria to indirectly favor candidates from the specified region, framing it as a necessary measure to support regional development goals. The correct answer is C. The examination committee should firmly reject the request, emphasizing that the Amasya University entrance exam is conducted under strict URSIM regulations that guarantee impartiality and equal opportunity for all candidates, and that any deviation would compromise the integrity of the examination and violate established legal frameworks. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between maintaining academic integrity and responding to external pressures that could compromise the fairness of the Amasya University entrance exam. The university's reputation and the trust placed in its admissions process are at stake. Careful judgment is required to navigate these pressures while adhering strictly to established examination regulations and ethical principles. The correct approach involves a rigorous and impartial adherence to the established examination protocols, prioritizing fairness and transparency above all else. This aligns with the core principles of academic governance and the regulatory framework governing university entrance exams in Turkey. Specifically, it upholds the principle of equal opportunity for all candidates and prevents any form of undue influence or bias. The regulatory framework for university entrance exams in Turkey, overseen by ERSIM Student Selection and Placement Center, emphasizes standardized procedures, secure examination environments, and objective evaluation criteria. Any deviation from these established rules, especially under external pressure, would violate the spirit and letter of these regulations, potentially leading to legal challenges and a severe erosion of public trust. An incorrect approach that involves accommodating the request for preferential treatment for a specific group of candidates would be a direct violation of the principle of equal opportunity enshrined in Turkish educational law and ERSIM regulations. This would undermine the meritocratic basis of the entrance exam and create an unfair advantage, thereby compromising the integrity of the entire admissions process. Another incorrect approach, such as attempting to subtly alter the exam content or scoring to favor certain candidates without explicit regulatory approval, would constitute academic misconduct and a breach of trust. This action would be unethical and illegal, as it manipulates the objective assessment process and violates the principles of transparency and fairness mandated by the governing bodies. A third incorrect approach, which might involve delaying the exam or altering its format without a clear, documented, and universally applicable justification, would also be problematic. Such actions, if not based on legitimate, predefined emergency protocols or regulatory directives, could be seen as an attempt to circumvent fair examination procedures and could lead to accusations of manipulation or favoritism. The professional decision-making framework for such situations should involve 1. Identifying the core ethical and regulatory principles at play: fairness, transparency, equal opportunity, and adherence to established procedures. 2. Assessing the nature and source of the external pressure and its potential impact on the integrity of the exam. 3. Consulting the relevant regulatory documents and internal university policies governing entrance examinations. 4. Prioritizing adherence to these regulations and policies, even in the face of pressure. 5. Documenting all communications and decisions related to the situation. 6. Escalating concerns to appropriate internal governance bodies or legal counsel if the pressure persists or if there is a risk of regulatory violation. 7. Communicating decisions and their justifications clearly and transparently to all relevant stakeholders, within the bounds of confidentiality requirements. Question 5. Market research demonstrates that a significant number of prospective students perceive the Amasya University entrance exam as highly challenging, leading to a potential decrease in applications. To address this, the admissions committee is considering various communication strategies. Which of the following strategies best aligns with the principles of academic integrity and fair admissions as likely stipulated by Amasya University entrance exam regulations? Option A. Focus marketing efforts on the university's prestige and career outcomes, downplaying any specific details about the entrance exam's format or difficulty to avoid deterring potential applicants. Option B. Develop and widely disseminate accurate study guides and practice exams that reflect the actual scope and difficulty of the entrance exam, while also clearly communicating the exam's purpose and the skills it assesses. Option C. Launch a marketing campaign emphasizing that the entrance exam has been simplified to make it more accessible to a wider range of applicants, without altering the exam's actual content or standards. Option D. Highlight the extreme difficulty of the entrance exam in all promotional materials to cultivate an image of exclusivity and rigorous selection, thereby attracting only the most elite candidates. Correct answer is B. Develop and widely disseminate accurate study guides and practice exams that reflect the actual scope and difficulty of the entrance exam, while also clearly communicating the exam's purpose and the skills it assesses. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires balancing the university's strategic goals with the ethical obligations of academic integrity and fair assessment. The pressure to increase enrollment figures, while a legitimate institutional objective, must not compromise the rigor and fairness of the entrance examination process. Misrepresenting the difficulty or nature of the exam can mislead prospective students, create an unfair advantage for some, and ultimately damage the university's reputation. The correct approach involves transparent communication about the exam's content and preparation resources. This aligns with the principles of fairness and honesty expected in academic admissions. Specifically, it adheres to the Amasya University entrance exam regulations, which likely emphasize truthful representation of examination standards and the provision of equitable opportunities for all candidates. By providing accurate information and accessible study materials, the university upholds its commitment to merit-based selection and fosters trust with applicants. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on marketing the exam as easier to attract more applicants would be ethically unsound and potentially violate the spirit, if not the letter, of the exam regulations. This would create a false impression, potentially leading to disappointment and a perception of unfairness among students who were misled. It prioritizes enrollment numbers over the integrity of the assessment process. Another incorrect approach, which involves exaggerating the difficulty to create a sense of exclusivity, is equally problematic. This tactic could deter genuinely capable students who might be intimidated by the perceived challenge, thereby limiting the pool of qualified applicants. It also misrepresents the exam's actual requirements, which is a breach of transparency. A professional decision-making framework for such situations should begin with a clear understanding of the university's mission and the specific regulations governing the entrance exam. This involves assessing the potential impact of any communication strategy on prospective students, current students, and the university's reputation. The framework should prioritize ethical considerations, such as honesty, fairness, and transparency, above short-term gains like increased enrollment. Professionals should always seek to provide accurate and balanced information, empowering applicants to make informed decisions about their preparation and application. Question 6. Risk assessment procedures indicate a potential candidate for the Amasya University entrance exam has been flagged for academic misconduct during a prior standardized test administered by a different educational institution. The candidate claims extenuating personal circumstances contributed to the incident. What is the most appropriate course of action for the Amasya University Admissions Committee? Option A. Initiate a formal review process by the Amasya University Academic Integrity Committee to investigate the alleged misconduct and consider the candidate's explanation, following established university protocols for such cases. Option B. Grant the candidate provisional admission pending a full investigation, with the understanding that admission is contingent on the outcome. Option C. Forward the case to an external disciplinary board for a ruling on the candidate's eligibility before making any decision. Option D. Immediately reject the candidate's application due to the reported academic misconduct, regardless of the circumstances. The correct answer is A. Initiate a formal review process by the Amasya University Academic Integrity Committee to investigate the alleged misconduct and consider the candidate's explanation, following established university protocols for such cases. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires balancing the university's commitment to academic integrity with the need to support students facing personal difficulties. The core tension lies in upholding the strict academic standards expected of Amasya University entrance exam candidates, while also demonstrating empathy and providing appropriate avenues for students who may be struggling. A hasty decision without proper consideration of the university's established procedures could lead to unfair outcomes for the student or compromise the integrity of the examination process. The correct approach involves a structured, evidence-based review process that adheres to Amasya University's established academic regulations and student support policies. This approach prioritizes fairness and due process. It requires gathering all relevant information, including the student's academic record, any documented extenuating circumstances, and the specific nature of the academic misconduct. The university's internal review committee, as outlined in its academic integrity guidelines, is the designated body to assess such situations. This committee is empowered to consider all factors and make a decision that is consistent with the university's commitment to both academic rigor and student welfare, ensuring that any disciplinary action is proportionate and just, and that the student is afforded an opportunity to present their case. An incorrect approach would be to immediately dismiss the student's application based solely on the initial report of academic misconduct, without a thorough investigation. This fails to acknowledge the university's obligation to investigate allegations and provide a fair hearing, as mandated by principles of natural justice inherent in most academic regulatory frameworks. Another incorrect approach would be to grant an automatic exemption or leniency without proper assessment of the evidence and the severity of the misconduct. This undermines the principle of equal treatment for all candidates and could set a precedent that compromises the integrity of the entrance examination. Furthermore, making a decision based on personal feelings or external pressure, rather than established university policy, constitutes a significant ethical failure, as it deviates from the objective and impartial application of rules. Professionals in such situation should employ a decision-making framework that begins with understanding the relevant university policies and regulations. This is followed by a thorough fact-finding process, ensuring all parties have an opportunity to be heard. The decision should then be made by the appropriate designated authority or committee, based on the gathered evidence and in strict adherence to established procedures. This systematic approach ensures fairness, transparency, and accountability, upholding both academic standards and ethical responsibilities. Question 7. Market research demonstrates that prospective students often seek advantages in competitive university entrance exams. An admissions committee member at Amasya University is reviewing applications for the upcoming entrance exam. They receive an application from a candidate who is the child of a prominent university donor, and another from a candidate who is the nephew of a senior faculty member. Both candidates have strong academic records and have performed well on practice tests, but their final entrance exam scores are still pending. The committee member is aware that the donor has expressed a strong desire for their child's admission, and the faculty member has informally inquired about their nephew's application status. How should the committee member proceed to ensure the integrity of the Amasya University entrance exam process? Option A. Give preferential consideration to the donor's child and the faculty member's nephew due to their connections, ensuring they meet the minimum score requirements. Option B. Evaluate both applications strictly based on the published academic criteria and the final entrance exam scores, without any consideration for their familial connections or the donor's influence. Option C. Recommend that the donor's child and the faculty member's nephew be admitted if they achieve scores slightly below the standard cutoff, given their potential to contribute to the university community through their families. Option D. Inform the donor and the faculty member that their relatives' applications will be given special attention and expedited review. The correct answer is B. Evaluate both applications strictly based on the published academic criteria and the final entrance exam scores, without any consideration for their familial connections or the donor's influence. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires an individual to navigate the ethical and regulatory landscape of university admissions while facing potential external pressures. The core of the challenge lies in maintaining integrity and fairness in the selection process, ensuring that all candidates are evaluated based on merit and adherence to Amasya University's stated admission criteria, rather than personal connections or perceived influence. Careful judgment is required to uphold the university's reputation and the trust placed in its admissions committee. The correct approach involves a rigorous and impartial evaluation of all applications, strictly according to the published admission criteria for the Amasya University entrance exam. This means assessing academic records, entrance exam scores, and any other objective measures defined by the university's regulations. This approach is correct because it directly aligns with the principles of fairness, transparency, and meritocracy that underpin any reputable academic institution's admissions process. It adheres to the spirit and letter of the Amasya University entrance exam regulations, which are designed to ensure equal opportunity for all prospective students. Upholding these regulations prevents bias and maintains the academic standards of the university. An incorrect approach would be to give undue consideration to a candidate based on a recommendation from a university official, even if that candidate meets the minimum requirements. This is an ethical failure because it introduces a subjective element into a process that should be objective and merit-based. It undermines the fairness of the competition for other applicants who are evaluated solely on their qualifications. Furthermore, it could violate the Amasya University entrance exam regulations if they explicitly prohibit preferential treatment or require all candidates to be assessed against the same objective criteria. Another incorrect approach would be to automatically admit a candidate because they are a relative of a faculty member, regardless of their performance on the entrance exam or their academic qualifications. This represents a clear conflict of interest and a violation of ethical principles. It prioritizes personal relationships over academic merit, which is detrimental to the university's academic integrity and reputation. Such an action would likely contravene the Amasya University entrance exam regulations concerning fair selection and the avoidance of nepotism. A third incorrect approach would be to dismiss an application outright due to a minor administrative error, without allowing the candidate an opportunity to rectify it, especially if the candidate is otherwise highly qualified. While adherence to administrative procedures is important, an overly rigid application of rules without considering the overall merit and potential for correction can be seen as unfair and contrary to the goal of selecting the best candidates. The Amasya University entrance exam regulations likely emphasize a balanced approach that upholds standards while allowing for reasonable flexibility in administrative matters, particularly when a candidate's academic potential is strong. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should begin with a thorough understanding of the Amasya University entrance exam regulations and the university's admissions policies. This involves identifying the objective criteria for admission and the procedures for evaluating applications. When faced with a situation involving potential influence or personal connections, the professional must consciously set aside any personal biases or external pressures and focus solely on the established criteria. If there is any ambiguity in the regulations or the situation, seeking clarification from the admissions committee or relevant university authorities is a crucial step. The ultimate goal is to ensure that the decision-making process is transparent, fair, and defensible according to the established rules and ethical standards. Question 8. Investigation of an applicant's appeal for admission to Amasya University, who narrowly missed the required score on the entrance exam due to unforeseen personal hardships during the examination period, requires careful consideration of the university's admission framework. Which of the following actions best aligns with the regulatory requirements and ethical standards of the Amasya University entrance exam? Option A. Discussing the applicant's situation informally with a senior faculty member in a different department to gauge their opinion on potential leniency. Option B. Reviewing the applicant's case against any provisions for exceptional circumstances or appeals within the Amasya University entrance exam regulations and consulting the admissions committee for a formal decision. Option C. Granting provisional admission based on the applicant's compelling personal story, with a commitment to review their academic performance in the first semester. Option D. Rejecting the appeal immediately, citing the strict adherence to the entrance exam score as the sole determinant for admission as per university policy. The correct answer is B. Reviewing the applicant's case against any provisions for exceptional circumstances or appeals within the Amasya University entrance exam regulations and consulting the admissions committee for a formal decision. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the potential conflict between a student's personal circumstances and the university's established admission policies. Navigating such situations requires a delicate balance of empathy, adherence to regulations, and maintaining the integrity of the admission process. The Amasya University entrance exam regulations are paramount, dictating the criteria and procedures for admission. The correct approach involves a thorough review of the applicant's documentation against the Amasya University entrance exam regulations, specifically focusing on any provisions for exceptional circumstances or appeals. This approach upholds the principle of fairness and consistency by applying established rules. It also respects the applicant's right to have their situation considered within the defined framework. The regulatory justification lies in the adherence to the Amasya University entrance exam's stated admission criteria and the procedural fairness expected in any evaluation process. Ethical considerations demand that decisions are made based on objective criteria and established procedures, avoiding arbitrary or biased judgments. An incorrect approach would be to grant admission solely based on the student's difficult personal situation without a clear basis in the Amasya University entrance exam regulations. This bypasses the established admission criteria and could be seen as preferential treatment, undermining the fairness of the exam for other applicants. The regulatory failure here is the deviation from the prescribed admission standards. Ethically, it compromises the principle of equal opportunity. Another incorrect approach would be to dismiss the application outright, without exploring any potential avenues for review or appeal, as outlined in the Amasya University Entrance Exam Guidelines. This demonstrates a lack of due diligence and potentially denies a deserving candidate a fair hearing, even if their initial application did not meet all standard requirements. The regulatory failure is the failure to follow the established appeals or review processes. Ethically, it can be perceived as uncompassionate and lacking in procedural fairness. Further incorrect approach would be to seek informal advice from a colleague outside the official admissions committee regarding the applicant's situation. This circumvents the formal decision-making process and could lead to inconsistent or biased outcomes, as informal advice may not be grounded in the specific regulations of the Amasya University entrance exam. The regulatory failure is the disregard for the established channels for decision-making and consultation. Ethically, it introduces an element of subjectivity and potential bias into the process. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve 1. Understanding the specific regulations of the Amasya University entrance exam thoroughly. 2. Identifying if the applicant's situation falls under any exceptional clauses or appeal mechanisms within those regulations. 3. Gathering all necessary documentation and information related to the applicant's case. 4. Consulting with the relevant admissions committee or designated authority according to the exam's procedural guidelines. 5. Making a decision based strictly on the established regulations and documented evidence. 6. Communicating the decision and the reasoning clearly to the applicant, adhering to university policy. Question 9. Market research demonstrates that prospective students are often influenced by marketing materials that highlight specific aspects of university entrance exams. The Amasya University Admissions Committee is considering how to best represent the upcoming entrance exam in its promotional campaigns. Which of the following approaches best balances attracting applicants with maintaining academic integrity and providing accurate information? Option A. Emphasize the hidden secrets to passing the exam, suggesting that only those who follow a particular, undisclosed methodology will be successful. Option B. Design advertisements that promise easy admission by focusing on specific, simplified study guides that guarantee success regardless of a student's prior knowledge. Option C. Develop marketing materials that accurately describe the scope of knowledge and skills tested, the general format of the exam, and the importance of thorough preparation, while avoiding exaggerated claims about ease or difficulty. Option D. Create promotional content that focuses on the trick questions and the exceptionally high failure rate to create a sense of exclusivity and challenge. The correct answer is C. Develop marketing materials that accurately describe the scope of knowledge and skills tested, the general format of the exam, and the importance of thorough preparation, while avoiding exaggerated claims about ease or difficulty. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between a university's desire to attract prospective students and the ethical obligation to provide accurate and unbiased information. The entrance exam context amplifies this challenge, as decisions made here can significantly impact a student's future educational path. Careful judgment is required to ensure that marketing efforts do not mislead or create unrealistic expectations about the difficulty or nature of the Amasya University entrance exam. The correct approach involves developing marketing materials that are truthful, transparent, and representative of the actual exam content and difficulty. This means highlighting the skills and knowledge areas that are assessed without exaggerating or misrepresenting them. Specifically, it aligns with the principles of academic integrity and fair assessment, ensuring that prospective students are making informed decisions based on accurate information. This approach upholds the university's reputation and fosters trust with applicants. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on highlighting perceived easy aspects of the exam would be ethically problematic. This misrepresents the exam's rigor and could lead to students being unprepared, potentially causing them to fail or perform poorly, which is detrimental to their academic aspirations and the university's commitment to quality education. Such an approach violates principles of honesty and fairness. Another incorrect approach that emphasizes the guaranteed success through specific study methods, without acknowledging the inherent variability in student aptitude and preparation, is also misleading. This creates false hope and can be seen as a form of deceptive marketing, undermining the credibility of both the university and any associated preparation programs. It fails to respect the individual effort and capabilities of each student. A further incorrect approach that focuses on sensationalizing the exam's difficulty to create a sense of urgency or exclusivity, without providing concrete information about the assessment criteria, is also inappropriate. While acknowledging the exam's challenge is valid, doing so in a way that is designed to manipulate rather than inform is ethically unsound and does not serve the best interests of prospective students. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a thorough review of all marketing claims against the actual examination syllabus and assessment standards. Professionals should prioritize transparency, accuracy, and fairness. They should ask, does this statement accurately reflect the exam's content and difficulty? And could this statement mislead a prospective student into making an uninformed decision? If there is any doubt, the marketing material should be revised to be more objective and informative. Question 10. System analysis indicates that a candidate for the Amasya University entrance exam has discovered a potential vulnerability in the exam security protocol that could allow for the retrieval of certain exam questions prior to the scheduled test time. The candidate is under immense pressure from their family to secure a place at the university and is aware that accessing these questions would significantly increase their chances of success. Considering the regulatory framework and ethical guidelines governing university entrance examinations, what is the most appropriate course of action for this candidate? Option A. Ignore the vulnerability and proceed with the exam as planned, hoping their own preparation is sufficient. Option B. Immediately report the discovered vulnerability to the Amasya University Examination Board or designated authority without attempting to exploit it. Option C. Share the information about the vulnerability with trusted friends who are also taking the exam, suggesting they also try to find the questions. Option D. Discreetly attempt to access and memorize the leaked exam questions to gain an unfair advantage. The correct answer is B. Immediately report the discovered vulnerability to the Amasya University Examination Board or designated authority without attempting to exploit it. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between a student's desire for academic advancement and the university's commitment to academic integrity and fair assessment. The pressure to perform well in a high-stakes entrance exam, coupled with the potential for personal gain or reputational benefit, can lead individuals to consider unethical shortcuts. Careful judgment is required to navigate these pressures while upholding the principles of honesty and fairness. The correct approach involves a student recognizing the ethical implications of their actions and choosing to rely solely on their own knowledge and preparation. This aligns with the core principles of academic integrity, which are fundamental to the Amasya University entrance exam's regulatory framework. The exam's purpose is to assess a candidate's genuine understanding and aptitude, and any attempt to circumvent this process undermines the validity of the assessment and devalues the achievements of honest candidates. Adhering to the exam's rules and demonstrating personal merit is the only ethically and regulatorily sound path. An incorrect approach involving seeking unauthorized assistance from external sources, such as obtaining exam questions beforehand, constitutes a severe breach of academic integrity. This directly violates the spirit and letter of examination regulations designed to ensure a fair and equitable testing environment. Such actions are not only unethical, but also carry significant penalties, including disqualification from the exam and potential disciplinary action by the university. Another incorrect approach, such as attempting to use pre-prepared notes or unauthorized electronic devices during the exam, also represents a violation of exam rules. This is a form of cheating that directly compromises the integrity of the assessment process. The regulatory framework for the Amasya University entrance exam explicitly prohibits such aids, as they provide an unfair advantage and distort the true measure of a candidate's knowledge. A further incorrect approach, such as colluding with other candidates during the exam to share answers, is equally unacceptable. This undermines the individual nature of the assessment and creates an environment of dishonesty. The exam is designed to evaluate each candidate's independent capabilities, and collaboration during the test is a direct contravention of this principle and the associated regulations. The professional decision-making process in such situations should begin with a clear understanding of the Amasya University entrance exam's rules and ethical guidelines. Candidates must internalize the importance of academic integrity and the consequences of violating it. When faced with temptation or pressure, the decision-making framework should involve 1. Identifying the ethical dilemma. 2. Recalling the relevant rules and principles of academic integrity. 3. Evaluating the potential consequences of each course of action, both for oneself and for the integrity of the examination process. 4. Choosing the course of action that upholds ethical standards and complies with regulations, even if it means facing a less favorable outcome based on personal merit. Question 11. When evaluating a student's conduct during the Amasya University entrance exam, an invigilator observes a student discreetly using a small, pre-written note containing formulas that are not permitted for use during the examination. According to the Amasya University entrance exam regulations, what is the most appropriate course of action for the invigilator? Option A. Immediately ask the student to leave the examination hall without further documentation or reporting. Option B. Confiscate the unauthorized note and report the incident to the examination authorities as per university procedure. Option C. Ignore the student's actions to avoid causing a disturbance and ensure the student completes the exam. Option D. Issue a verbal warning to the student and allow them to continue the exam after discarding the note. The correct answer is B. Confiscate the unauthorized note and report the incident to the examination authorities as per university procedure. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between a student's desire to present their best work and the academic integrity expected by Amasya University. The pressure to succeed in entrance exams can lead students to seek shortcuts, making it crucial for invigilators to uphold the university's regulations. Careful judgment is required to distinguish between legitimate assistance and academic misconduct. The correct approach involves the invigilator strictly adhering to the Amasya University entrance exam regulations regarding prohibited materials and unauthorized assistance. This means confiscating any unauthorized aids and documenting the incident according to university policy. This approach is right because it directly upholds the principles of fairness, equal opportunity, and academic integrity, which are foundational to any university entrance examination. The regulations are designed to ensure that all candidates are assessed on their own knowledge and abilities, and any deviation undermines this core principle. An incorrect approach would be to ignore the student's actions, assuming it's a minor infraction, or out of a desire to avoid confrontation. This fails to uphold the university's regulations and compromises the integrity of the exam process. It creates an unfair advantage for the student and devalues the efforts of other candidates who followed the rules. Another incorrect approach would be to immediately disqualify the student without following the documented university procedure for handling suspected academic misconduct. While the student's actions are serious, the university likely has a defined process for investigation and adjudication, which must be followed to ensure due process and fairness to the student, even in cases of clear rule breaking. Failure to follow procedure can lead to appeals and a compromised outcome. A further incorrect approach would be to offer the student a warning and allow them to continue the exam after removing the unauthorized material. This is incorrect because it does not adequately address the breach of regulations. The act of possessing and attempting to use unauthorized materials constitutes a violation, and a warning alone does not serve as a sufficient deterrent or consequence, nor does it rectify the unfair advantage gained. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve 1. Immediate identification of the potential violation. 2. Consultation of the specific Amasya University entrance, exam regulations, and invigilation guidelines. 3. Calm and discreet intervention to address the situation without disrupting other candidates unnecessarily. 4. Documentation of the observed infraction and any evidence. 5. Following the prescribed university procedure for reporting and handling academic misconduct, which may include confiscation of materials and reporting to the examination board. 6. Maintaining impartiality and objectivity throughout the process. Question 12. The assessment process reveals that a prospective applicant for the Amasya University entrance exam has submitted a request for a modified testing environment due to a documented learning disability. The applicant has provided a recent psychological evaluation report detailing their condition and recommending specific accommodations, including extended time and a separate, quiet testing room. The exam administrator is responsible for ensuring the integrity and fairness of the entrance exam. Which of the following represents the most appropriate course of action for the exam administrator? Option A. Seek informal advice from other faculty members not directly involved in admissions or disability services to gauge their opinion on the request. Option B. Deny the accommodation request outright, citing the need for standardized testing conditions for all applicants. Option C. Consult with the university's Disability Services Department to review the documentation and determine appropriate, valid accommodations. Option D. Immediately approve the requested accommodations based on the provided documentation to ensure inclusivity. The correct answer is D. Immediately approve the requested accommodations based on the provided documentation to ensure inclusivity. Explanation. The assessment process reveals a common challenge faced by university entrance exam administrators, ensuring fairness and integrity while accommodating diverse applicant needs. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires balancing the university's commitment to a standardized and equitable evaluation with the ethical obligation to provide reasonable accommodations for candidates with documented disabilities. The administrator must navigate potential biases, ensure compliance with relevant regulations, and maintain the credibility of the examination process. Careful judgment is required to distinguish between legitimate accommodation requests and attempts to gain an unfair advantage. The correct approach involves a thorough, individualized review of the applicant's documentation and a collaborative discussion with relevant university departments, such as disability services. This approach is right because it adheres to the principles of fairness and non-discrimination enshrined in educational regulations. By seeking expert advice and ensuring the accommodation does not fundamentally alter the assessment's validity or comparability. The administrator upholds the integrity of the Amasya University entrance exam. This process demonstrates a commitment to inclusivity while maintaining rigorous academic standards. An incorrect approach that involves immediately granting an accommodation without proper verification fails to uphold the principle of equitable assessment. This could lead to an unfair advantage for the applicant and compromise the validity of the exam results for all candidates. It also risks violating regulations that mandate a structured process for approving accommodations. Another incorrect approach, which is to deny the accommodation outright without a proper review of the provided documentation, is ethically and legally problematic. This could constitute discrimination against a candidate with a disability and violate their rights. It also bypasses the established procedures for handling such requests, demonstrating a lack of due diligence and adherence to university policy. A third incorrect approach, which is to consult with colleagues outside of the designated disability services or admissions committee for an informal opinion, is also professionally unsound. This circumvents the established channels for decision-making, potentially leading to inconsistent or biased judgments and a lack of proper documentation for the decision. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a structured, multi-step approach. 1. Acknowledge and document the request. 2. Review all submitted documentation thoroughly, ensuring it meets established criteria. 3. Consult with the university's designated disability services or equivalent body for expert guidance on appropriate accommodations. 4. Assess whether the proposed accommodation fundamentally alters the nature or validity of the examination. 5. Make a decision based on documented evidence, expert advice, and adherence to university policy and relevant regulations. 6. Communicate the decision clearly and respectfully to the applicant, providing reasons if the request is denied or modified. Question 13. Analysis of a candidate's situation during the Amasya University entrance exam, where they are unsure about a specific historical date required for an essay question. The candidate has a mobile phone in their pocket, which is not explicitly forbidden in the general exam instructions, but is also not listed as a permitted item. The candidate considers quickly checking the date on their phone, believing it would be discreet and improve their essay's accuracy. Which of the following represents the most appropriate course of action for the candidate, strictly adhering to the Amasya University entrance exam's regulatory framework? Option A. The candidate should attempt to signal another student to ask for the correct date, believing that collaboration is acceptable if done subtly. Option B. The candidate should refrain from using the mobile phone and answer the question based on their best recollection, even if uncertain about the exact date. Option C. The candidate should leave the exam room to consult external resources for the correct date, assuming the exam allows for breaks to gather information. Option D. The candidate should discreetly use their mobile phone to quickly look up the historical date, assuming that if it's not explicitly forbidden, it is implicitly allowed. The correct answer is B. The candidate should refrain from using the mobile phone and answer the question based on their best recollection, even if uncertain about the exact date. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between a student's desire to excel and the ethical imperative to uphold academic integrity. The pressure to perform well in a university entrance exam, especially one as significant as the Amasya University entrance exam, can lead individuals to consider shortcuts. The core of the challenge lies in identifying and adhering to the specific regulatory framework governing this exam, which is paramount for fair competition and the validity of the assessment process. The correct approach involves a thorough understanding and strict adherence to the Amasya University entrance exam regulation, specifically concerning the use of external aids and information. This means recognizing that any attempt to access or utilize unauthorized materials during the exam constitutes a violation. The regulatory framework for the Amasya University entrance exam explicitly prohibits the use of any external resources, including mobile phones, notes, or any form of electronic device, unless explicitly permitted by the examination authorities. Upholding this rule ensures a level playing field for all candidates and maintains the integrity of the examination process. An incorrect approach would be to assume that discreet use of a mobile phone for quick fact-checking is acceptable, especially if the student believes it will not be detected. This fails to acknowledge the absolute prohibition of such devices as outlined in the exam regulations. The ethical failure here is dishonesty and a disregard for the established rules. Another incorrect approach is to rely on pre-existing, unverified knowledge that might be incomplete or inaccurate, without consulting any permitted resources. While not actively cheating, this approach risks providing incorrect answers due to a lack of access to verified information, which, while not a direct violation of exam rules, undermines the purpose of the exam to assess current knowledge and understanding. A third incorrect approach would be to share information with another candidate during the exam. This is a clear breach of examination regulations, constituting collusion and a severe ethical violation, directly undermining the fairness and validity of the assessment. Professionals should approach such situations by prioritizing a clear understanding of the governing rules and regulations. Before any examination, a thorough review of the official guidelines is essential. When faced with uncertainty during an exam, the professional decision-making process involves either relying solely on one's verified knowledge or, if permitted, seeking clarification from invigilators. The guiding principle is to act with integrity and to ensure that all actions are compliant with the established framework, thereby safeguarding the fairness and credibility of the assessment. Question 14. Process analysis reveals that a proctor at the Amasya University entrance exam observed a candidate exhibiting suspicious behavior, including discreetly consulting notes hidden within their clothing. The proctor, concerned about academic integrity, reported the incident. The university's examination committee must now decide on the appropriate course of action, balancing the need to uphold exam regulations with fairness to the student. Which of the following represents the most appropriate and procedurally sound response according to Amasya University's established examination framework? Option A. Issue a warning to the candidate and allow them to continue the exam, assuming the observed behavior was a minor lapse in judgment, to avoid disrupting the examination process. Option B. Immediately disqualify the candidate from the exam and initiate formal disciplinary proceedings based on the proctor's report, without further consultation with the candidate. Option C. Conduct a thorough, impartial investigation into the alleged misconduct, gathering all relevant evidence, allowing the candidate to present their perspective, and then applying disciplinary measures strictly in accordance with Amasya University's academic integrity policies. Option D. Consult with senior faculty members outside the examination committee for their opinion on how to handle the situation, prioritizing their experience over the university's formal disciplinary procedures. The correct answer is B. Immediately disqualify the candidate from the exam and initiate formal disciplinary proceedings based on the proctor's report, without further consultation with the candidate. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between a student's desire to excel and the university's commitment to academic integrity. The pressure to perform well in the Amasya University entrance exam can lead students to seek shortcuts, making it crucial for exam administrators and faculty to uphold ethical standards and regulatory compliance. Careful judgment is required to identify and address potential breaches of these standards without unfairly penalizing students. The correct approach involves a thorough and impartial investigation of the alleged misconduct, adhering strictly to the Amasya University's established examination regulations and academic integrity policies. This process would typically include gathering evidence, providing the student with an opportunity to respond, and making a decision based solely on the documented facts and the university's disciplinary framework. This upholds the principle of due process and ensures that any disciplinary action is fair, consistent, and legally defensible under the university's own regulations. It prioritizes the integrity of the examination process and the academic reputation of Amasya University. An incorrect approach that involves immediate dismissal or severe penalty without a proper investigation fails to adhere to the university's procedural fairness requirements. This bypasses the established disciplinary procedures, potentially leading to an unjust outcome and legal challenges. Another incorrect approach, such as ignoring the allegations due to the student's perceived potential or the pressure to maintain high pass rates, constitutes a dereliction of duty. This undermines academic standards and creates an environment where misconduct can go unaddressed, damaging the university's credibility. Furthermore, an approach that involves seeking external advice without consulting the university's internal policies and legal counsel would violate the principle of operating within the defined regulatory framework of Amasya University. Professionals in this situation should employ a decision-making framework that prioritizes adherence to established university policies and procedures. This involves 1. Recognizing the allegation and its potential impact on academic integrity. 2. Consulting the relevant sections of the Amasya University entrance exam regulations and the university's academic misconduct policy. 3. Initiating a formal investigation process as outlined in these documents. 4. Ensuring all evidence is collected objectively and fairly. 5. Providing the student with a clear explanation of the allegations and an opportunity to present their defense. 6. Making a decision based on the evidence and the university's established disciplinary guidelines, documenting the entire process meticulously. Question 15. Benchmark analysis indicates that a candidate preparing for the Amasya University entrance exam is struggling with a particular subject area. They have access to past exam papers and study guides, but are also aware of online forums where students discuss exam content and potential questions. The candidate is under significant pressure to achieve a high score. Considering the regulatory framework of the Amasya University entrance exam, which emphasizes academic integrity and fair assessment, what is the most appropriate course of action for this candidate? Option A. Share their own notes and study strategies with other candidates in a private online group to collectively prepare, rationalizing that mutual assistance is beneficial. Option B. Focus solely on studying the provided past exam papers and official study guides, strictly adhering to the exam's stated rules and prohibitions regarding external assistance. Option C. Discreetly consult online forums for hints and potential answers to specific questions, believing that this will improve their score and is a common practice among ambitious students. Option D. Attempt to memorize answers from unofficial online sources that claim to have leaked exam content, assuming these are reliable shortcuts to success. The correct answer is B. Focus solely on studying the provided past exam papers and official study guides, strictly adhering to the exam's stated rules and prohibitions regarding external assistance. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between a student's desire to excel and the ethical imperative to uphold academic integrity. The pressure to perform well in a competitive university entrance exam, such as the Amasya University entrance exam, can lead some students to consider shortcuts. Navigating this requires a strong understanding of the exam's specific regulatory framework, which prioritizes fairness, equal opportunity, and the accurate assessment of individual knowledge and skills. The correct approach involves strictly adhering to the examination rules and guidelines provided by Amasya University. This means relying solely on one's own knowledge and preparation, without seeking or utilizing any external assistance or unauthorized materials. This approach is ethically sound and legally compliant because it upholds the principles of academic honesty, ensures a level playing field for all candidates, and guarantees that the assessment accurately reflects the student's genuine understanding. The Amasya University entrance exam regulations, by their nature, are designed to prevent any form of cheating or unfair advantage, thereby safeguarding the credibility of the examination process and the value of the qualifications awarded. An incorrect approach would be to engage in any form of academic dishonesty, such as using unauthorized notes or collaborating with others during the exam. This directly violates the core principles of the Amasya University entrance exam regulations, which explicitly prohibit such actions. The ethical failure lies in deceiving the examination body and other candidates, undermining the fairness of the assessment. Furthermore, it demonstrates a lack of respect for the educational process and the value of genuine learning. Another incorrect approach would be to misinterpret or disregard the instructions provided by the invigilators, even if unintentionally. This can lead to procedural errors that, while not necessarily malicious, can still invalidate an exam attempt or lead to disciplinary action, as the regulations are designed to be clear and universally applicable to ensure a standardized testing environment. The professional decision-making process in such a situation should involve a clear understanding of the exam's rules and regulations, a commitment to ethical conduct, and a focus on personal preparation. Students should prioritize understanding the scope of the exam and the acceptable methods of answering questions. When faced with uncertainty, the correct course of action is to seek clarification from the invigilators or consult the official examination guidelines rather than making assumptions or resorting to prohibited methods. Question 16. Research into the Amasya University entrance exam regulations has revealed a candidate requesting assistance from an invigilator to access unauthorized study notes during the examination period, citing extreme pressure to perform well. The invigilator is aware that such assistance is strictly prohibited by the exam's governing framework. What is the most appropriate course of action for the invigilator to take? Option A. Report the student's request to the examination board and suggest that the student be given a modified, easier version of the exam. Option B. Politely but firmly refuse the student's request, reminding them of the examination rules, and continue to monitor the examination environment for any further breaches of conduct. Option C. Provide the student with a brief, discrete overview of the topics covered in the unauthorized notes to help them focus their efforts. Option D. Allow the student to use the unauthorized notes for a limited time, explaining that it is a one-time exception due to the perceived pressure. The correct answer is B. Politely but firmly refuse the student's request, reminding them of the examination rules, and continue to monitor the examination environment for any further breaches of conduct. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between a student's desire for academic advancement and the university's commitment to academic integrity. The pressure to succeed in a competitive entrance exam, coupled with the temptation to circumvent the established process, requires careful ethical judgment. The Amasya University entrance exam regulations, which are the sole governing framework here, emphasize fairness, transparency, and the prevention of any form of academic misconduct. The correct approach involves strictly adhering to the examination rules and regulations as stipulated by Amasya University. This means ensuring that all submitted materials are the student's own original work, and that no external assistance or unauthorized resources are used during the exam. This aligns directly with the core principles of academic integrity that are fundamental to any university's entrance process, as implicitly or explicitly defined by the Amasya University entrance exam guidelines. These guidelines are designed to ensure a level playing field and to assess a candidate's genuine knowledge and aptitude. An incorrect approach would be to provide the student with a copy of the exam questions or answers in advance. This directly violates the principles of fairness and integrity mandated by the Amasya University entrance exam regulations. Such an action constitutes aiding and abetting academic dishonesty, undermining the validity of the examination process, and potentially admitting a candidate who has not demonstrated their true capabilities. Another incorrect approach would be to allow the student to use unauthorized reference materials during the exam. This also contravenes the explicit rules of the Amasya University entrance exam, which are designed to test a candidate's unaided knowledge. This action compromises the integrity of the assessment and provides an unfair advantage. A third incorrect approach would be to overlook minor instances of suspected cheating, such as glancing at another student's paper. While seemingly minor, this demonstrates a disregard for the strict adherence to rules required by the Amasya University entrance exam framework and can set a precedent for more serious breaches. Professionals in this situation should employ a decision-making framework that prioritizes adherence to established regulations and ethical principles. This involves 1. Understanding and internalizing the specific rules and guidelines of the Amasya University entrance exam. 2. Identifying any potential conflicts between a student's requests or actions and these regulations. 3. Consulting relevant university policies on academic integrity and misconduct if ambiguity exists. 4. Acting impartially and consistently in enforcing the rules, ensuring fairness for all candidates. 5. Reporting any suspected breaches of academic integrity through the designated university channels. Question 17. Quality control measures reveal a discrepancy between the stated grade point average on an applicant's submitted high school transcript and the information available from the applicant's previous educational institution's online portal, which was accessed by the admissions committee for preliminary review. The applicant has been informed of the discrepancy and has provided a written explanation. What is the most appropriate next step for the Amasya University Admissions Committee? Option A. Share the details of the discrepancy and the applicant's explanation with other admissions committee members for informal discussion and consensus. Option B. Immediately reject the applicant's application due to the suspected falsification of academic records. Option C. Accept the applicant's explanation at face value and proceed with the application without further verification, assuming it was an administrative error on the institution's portal. Option D. Request an official, sealed transcript directly from the applicant's previous educational institution for verification, and compare it with the submitted documents and the applicant's explanation. The correct answer is D. Request an official, sealed transcript directly from the applicant's previous educational institution for verification, and compare it with the submitted documents and the applicant's explanation. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the potential for misrepresentation of academic qualifications, which directly impacts the integrity of the Amasya University entrance exam process. The university has a vested interest in ensuring that all admitted students meet the established academic standards and have truthfully presented their credentials. The challenge lies in balancing the need for thorough verification with the principle of fairness to the applicant. The correct approach involves a systematic and transparent process of verifying the applicant's submitted documents against official records. This upholds the university's commitment to academic integrity and ensures that admission decisions are based on accurate information. Specifically, contacting the applicant's previous educational institution to confirm the authenticity of the transcript and diploma is a standard and ethically sound practice. This aligns with the university's internal regulations regarding document verification and the broader ethical obligation to maintain a fair and credible admissions process. An incorrect approach would be to immediately reject the application without further investigation. This fails to provide the applicant with an opportunity to clarify any discrepancies and could lead to an unfair outcome if the issue is a simple administrative error or misunderstanding. Such an action would violate principles of natural justice and could damage the university's reputation. Another incorrect approach would be to accept the application based solely on the applicant's assertion that the documents are authentic, without independent verification. This bypasses essential quality control measures and opens the door to fraudulent applications, undermining the credibility of the entire entrance exam system. It demonstrates a lack of due diligence and a disregard for the university's established procedures. Finally, an incorrect approach would be to share the applicant's personal information and the suspected discrepancy with other applicants or unauthorized personnel. This constitutes a breach of privacy and confidentiality, violating data protection principles and potentially leading to reputational damage for the university. The professional decision-making process in such situations should involve 1. Identifying the discrepancy and its potential implications. 2. Consulting relevant university policies and procedures for document verification. 3. Implementing a fair and transparent verification process, including direct communication with the applicant and their previous institution. 4. Making a decision based on verified information, ensuring due process for the applicant. 5. maintaining confidentiality throughout the process. Question 18. Comparative studies suggest that university entrance examinations are critical junctures for students, and the role of the invigilator extends beyond mere supervision. Imagine you are an invigilator during the Amasya University entrance exam. You observe a student exhibiting signs of extreme distress, including trembling hands and tearfulness, which appear to be impacting their ability to focus on the exam paper. According to Amasya University's guidelines for examination conduct and student welfare, what is the most appropriate course of action? Option A. Provide the student with a brief, unauthorized hint or reassurance about the exam content to help them calm down and continue. Option B. Discreetly approach the student, offer a brief moment to compose themselves, and then privately inform them of available university counseling services and academic support resources, documenting this interaction. Option C. Continue the examination without acknowledging the student's distress, assuming it is a personal matter unrelated to the exam's integrity. Option D. Immediately report the student to the examination board for potential academic misconduct due to their inability to focus, without further inquiry. Correct answer is B. Discreetly approach the student, offer a brief moment to compose themselves, and then privately inform them of available university counseling services and academic support resources, documenting this interaction. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires balancing the university's academic integrity policies with the ethical obligation to support a student facing personal difficulties. The challenge lies in determining the appropriate level of intervention and support without compromising the examination's fairness or the student's well-being, all within the defined regulatory framework of Amasya University. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a multifaceted response that prioritizes the student's welfare while upholding academic standards. This entails discreetly offering the student support services available through the university, such as counseling or academic advising, and documenting the interaction. This aligns with Amasya University's commitment to student support and its regulations regarding academic integrity, which often allow for compassionate consideration of extenuating circumstances. The university's framework likely emphasizes a balance between enforcing rules and providing a supportive environment. Incorrect approaches analysis. One incorrect approach is to immediately report the student for academic misconduct without attempting to understand the situation or offer support. This fails to acknowledge the potential for extenuating circumstances and violates the university's implicit or explicit duty of care towards its students. It prioritizes punitive measures over supportive ones, which is often contrary to university ethos and regulations designed to foster student success. Another incorrect approach is to ignore the student's distress and proceed with the examination as if nothing is amiss. This demonstrates a lack of empathy and professional responsibility. It neglects the university's obligation to ensure a conducive learning and examination environment, and could lead to a student experiencing a severe academic setback due to unaddressed personal issues, potentially impacting their overall academic journey and well-being, which the university is mandated to support. A third incorrect approach is to offer direct, unauthorized assistance during the examination itself. This would be a clear violation of academic integrity policies and could lead to severe disciplinary action for both the student and the invigilator. It undermines the fairness of the examination process for all students and contravenes the fundamental principles of academic honesty that Amasya University's entrance exam regulations are designed to protect. Professional reasoning. Professionals in this situation should first assess the immediate situation, observing the student's behavior and apparent distress. They should then discreetly and privately inquire about the student's well-being. Based on the student's response, the professional should offer appropriate, pre-approved university support resources. All interactions and decisions should be documented. This systematic approach ensures that student welfare is considered, academic integrity is maintained, and university regulations are adhered to, fostering a fair and supportive examination environment. Question 19. Operational review demonstrates that a proctor reported observing a student exhibiting suspicious behavior during the Amasya University entrance exam, including discreetly looking at a small, concealed device. The proctor has submitted a written statement detailing their observations. What is the most appropriate immediate next step for the Examination Oversight Committee? Option A. Ignore the proctor's report as it is a single observation and may be subjective, to avoid unnecessary disruption to the examination process. Option B. Publicly announce that a student is under suspicion of cheating to deter other potential misconduct. Option C. Immediately disqualify the student from the examination and initiate disciplinary proceedings based on the proctor's report. Option D. Conduct a thorough, confidential investigation into the alleged incident, gathering all available evidence and providing the student with an opportunity to respond, in accordance with Amasya University's examination regulations. The correct answer is C. Immediately disqualify the student from the examination and initiate disciplinary proceedings based on the proctor's report. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between maintaining academic integrity and responding to a potential breach of examination regulations. The Amasya University entrance exam framework mandates strict adherence to its examination rules, which are designed to ensure fairness and validity of the assessment process. The challenge lies in balancing the need for a thorough investigation with the potential disruption and distress caused by accusations of misconduct. Careful judgment is required to avoid premature conclusions, while ensuring that all allegations are addressed appropriately according to university policy. The correct approach involves a systematic and documented investigation process that adheres strictly to the Amasya University entrance exam regulations concerning academic misconduct. This approach prioritizes gathering evidence, providing the accused student with an opportunity to respond, and making a decision based on established procedures and evidence. This aligns with the principles of natural justice and due process, ensuring that the student's rights are protected while upholding the integrity of the examination. Specifically, the university's examination regulations likely outline a clear protocol for handling suspected cheating, including notification, evidence collection, and a hearing or review process. Following this protocol is ethically and regulatorily imperative. An incorrect approach would be to immediately dismiss the student based on a single report, without further investigation. This fails to uphold the principle of innocent until proven guilty and bypasses the established procedures for handling academic misconduct, thereby violating the university's examination regulations. Another incorrect approach would be to ignore the report altogether, which would be a dereliction of duty and a failure to maintain the integrity of the examination process, potentially leading to a compromised assessment outcome and undermining the credibility of the university. A third incorrect approach would be to publicly announce the accusation before a thorough investigation and decision, which would violate the student's privacy and potentially damage their reputation unfairly. Professionals in this situation should employ a decision-making framework that begins with acknowledging the report and initiating a formal, confidential investigation. This involves consulting the relevant sections of the Amasya University entrance exam regulations, documenting all steps taken, and ensuring that communication with the student is clear, respectful, and in line with university policy. The focus should always be on objective evidence and adherence to established procedures, rather than on assumptions or hearsay. Question 20. Regulatory review indicates that a prospective student who is scheduled to take the Amasya University entrance exam has approached the admissions office expressing significant anxiety about the examination environment and requesting a separate, quiet room with no other candidates present. The admissions officer must decide how to respond. Which of the following represents the most appropriate course of action according to the Amasya University entrance exam regulations and ethical guidelines for university admissions? Option A. Suggest a compromise where the student can take the exam in a slightly less crowded area of the main examination hall, away from other candidates. Option B. Immediately grant the student's request for a separate room to alleviate their anxiety and ensure they can perform to their best ability. Option C. Advise the student that if they are too anxious to take the exam under standard conditions, they should consider reapplying in a future examination cycle. Option D. Politely inform the student that the examination conditions are standardized for all candidates to ensure fairness and that their request cannot be accommodated, while offering information about general university support services for student anxiety. The correct answer is D. Politely inform the student that the examination conditions are standardized for all candidates to ensure fairness and that their request cannot be accommodated, while offering information about general university support services for student anxiety. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between a student's perceived academic need and the university's established examination integrity policies. The student's request, while potentially stemming from genuine anxiety, directly challenges the fairness and security of the examination process. A careful judgment is required to uphold academic standards without unduly penalizing a student who may be experiencing distress. The core tension lies in balancing support for student well-being with the imperative to maintain a secure and equitable assessment environment. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves acknowledging the student's request, empathizing with their situation, and then clearly explaining the university's policy regarding examination conditions and the reasons for its existence. This approach upholds professional integrity by adhering to the Amasya University entrance exam regulations, which prioritize standardized testing conditions for all candidates. It demonstrates respect for the student by engaging with their concern directly, while firmly reinforcing the established rules that ensure a fair and objective evaluation for every applicant. This aligns with the ethical obligation to treat all candidates equally and to maintain the credibility of the entrance examination. Incorrect approaches analysis. An approach that immediately grants the student's request without considering the broader implications or university policy fails to uphold the regulatory framework. This would undermine the principle of equal opportunity for all applicants, as it creates an unfair advantage. It also disregards the established procedures designed to prevent any form of academic misconduct or undue influence on the examination outcome. An approach that dismisses the student's concerns outright without any attempt at explanation or empathy, while technically adhering to policy, lacks professional courtesy and ethical consideration for student welfare. While the policy might be upheld, the manner of communication could be perceived as unsupportive and could negatively impact the student's perception of the university. An approach that attempts to negotiate a compromise that deviates from the established examination protocol, such as allowing a modified examination environment without proper authorization or justification, would also be a regulatory failure. This could inadvertently create loopholes or set precedents that compromise the integrity of future examinations. Professional reasoning. Professionals in university admissions and examination administration should employ a decision-making framework that prioritizes adherence to established regulations and ethical principles. This involves 1. Understanding and internalizing all relevant university policies and examination guidelines. 2. Actively listening to and acknowledging concerns raised by stakeholders such as students. 3. Evaluating requests against the established regulatory framework, considering the impact on fairness, equity, and academic integrity. 4. Communicating decisions clearly and respectfully, providing justifications based on policy and ethical considerations. 5. Escalating complex or ambiguous situations to appropriate authorities for guidance and decision-making.